Folks, you know we take prospect rankings seriously on this channel. And TSN just released a huge new article ranking the top 50 best U24 NHL players. I've heard this list has some major surprises and some controversial picks, so we're going to be reacting to the entire thing, breaking it all down from 50 all the way down to number 1. But who does TSN see as the best young players in the NHL today? Well, make sure you watch till the end as we go through every single pick to see what we agree, what we disagree with, and make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're new for more hockey prospect content just like this all year round. And here it is, TSN's ranking of the top 50 NHL players 23 years old or younger. And I found this article on Twitter where it was really starting to find some major controversy, which is always the best sign. Now, this is very important. To make this list, you had to be 23 years old or younger as of October 10th, which is why you'll have Cale Makar out of this list, but you'll have Quinn Hughes on it, who's 24 right now, but turned 24 on October 14th. Now, another very important note is that Craig Button says it's not about today, it's about tomorrow. This is a ranking of the players and their futures, not what they are right now. Let's start out the ranking with the number 50th spot and keep on going down. And we got the first few batch of prospects here, apparently, from number 50 to number 46. This is the lowest tier in this ranking. You got Matt Coronado, 50, William Eklund, Yager, Yaroslav Askarov, and Dmitri Simashev. Now, I'm going to be honest, this is a tier that I don't really disagree with all that much. But then we go to maybe my biggest disagreement out of the group, and that is Dmitri Simashev. Now, I could see why you'd have him at 46, but to me, I would have him quite a bit higher still. You see, of course, drafted 6th overall by Arizona, 6'4", 201 Russian D. And you can see this year, he hasn't put up the greatest numbers in the world, 2 points in 29 KHL games, but to me, he's adapting a lot better to the KHL level, getting more and more adjusted every single game, and I think the points will come. Simashev is still a long-term project, but to me, a high ceiling guy that projects still pretty greatly to the NHL with that skill and that adaptiveness in his game. Now let's go on to the next tier here, and slightly above, we're gonna go just outside the top 40, and this is interesting. 45 is Tom Willander, 44 is David Jiricek, 43 is Oliver Moore, Ryan Leonard number 42, and Jimmy Snuggerud outside the top 40. Going on to number 44 though, in David Jiricek, and I am absolutely shocked that he is this low. I know there's some big competition, but they're probably gonna end up having a player like Evan Bouchard or something at like 30th overall and having David Jiricek at this spot, which at 19 years old, he has shown all the tools and all the potential to be a top pairing D for Columbus. And this year, 3 points in 14 games on a pretty disastrous Columbus team. He has looked pretty at home already at the NHL level and might not have any signs of going back to the AHL either. This is going to be an elite NHL talent on D, and to have David Jiricek this low is just insulting, man. I mean, they had him 44th last year and no improvement this year. I just don't really see how that really happens. And sure, if this ranking was about players right now, then yeah, he hasn't played a full NHL year yet. You can have him at 44, whatever. But this is about projecting NHL players to what they're going to be. And David Jiricek is going to be way better than a lot of players on this list, I'm willing to bet. Really, man, besides that David Jiricek pick, I mean, I think this tier is pretty solid, pretty decent. There's a few changes I would make, probably having a player like Ryan Leonard a little bit higher, probably having a player like Tom Willander a little bit lower, but still, it's not that big of a difference. But David Jiricek is really the big one here, and this is the first controversial opinion that I completely disagree with. Okay, now going on to the next 5 group of players here, and this is where it could get really interesting. We're going to go past number 41 and go into the top 36, and there you have it. Nat Poitras at 40th, Alexander Nikishin at 39, Will Smith at 38, Kevin Korchinski at 37, and Brock Faber of the Minnesota Wild at number 36. Now, starting the top 40 off was Matthew Poitras, and it's hard to really rank him at this stage because of how out of nowhere really his stock has risen. But of course, as a second round pick in 2022, he has been brilliant since he was drafted. And of course, this year, 8 points in 17 games. He has been a brilliant, smart player for Boston and one of the most underrated rookies of the year for sure. You got Alexander Nikishin next up. And I mean, sure, if you're betting on the potential, I could see him this high. He's a player that, of course, a lot of people have been very bullish on. Some people have been reserved on. I'm kind of in the middle. I think he'll be a great offensive D for Carolina, especially in the goal scoring department. He just has such a wicked shot that I think will be realized with the Canes. Over David Jiricek, I'm not quite sure. Same thing with Poitras, but you know, I could see the vision. And then you got Brock Faber ending off this tier. And personally, I like the Brock Faber hype. I like that they're finally giving him some credit here, and somebody's finally starting to give him credit besides me. You can see this year in 17 games, he has 8 points, looking very good, looking like a potential top 2 D-man. But to me, Faber has been brilliant. I'm not sure, again, if I would have him over Jiricek, but he's a player that I think deserves a spot inside this top 50, and I'm glad it is so high, too. I'm kind of scared for this next tier because we get inside the top 35, and I'm not sure what to make of it, but let's go in and go right outside the top 30, and oh my goodness gracious. Okay, Matthew Knies, Pavel Mintyukov, Trevor Zegras, Evan Bouchard, and Cole Perfetti. I really called it, didn't I? Evan Bouchard at 32nd overall, because of course he is. You got Pavel Mintyukov here at the next spot, and this is where it starts to get silly for me, because I know who's ahead. I know who's in the rest of this tier, and the fact that Pavel Mintyukov is below Evan Bouchard, I just can't justify that at all. I know that friggin' Bouchard is a point per game. I don't care. He couldn't defend a toilet bowl if it was right in front of him. Pavel Mintyukov at 19 years old has shown incredible defensive awareness, a great offensive ceiling, and has continued to get better and better every single year. 10 points in 18 games for this Ducks Ducks team, and has already played like a top pair defenseman. The fact that he is in this spot, sure, whatever, but below a player like Bouchard who can't defend for anything. I mean, Pavel Mintyukov, I think he's just getting straight up disrespected. But then you got Evan Bouchard at 32nd overall. And here's the thing. I think he is a fantastic offensive talent and will continue to be. But Evan Bouchard has shown who he is. A player that is a great power play player, has a good shot, a good distribution ability, but he cannot defend. And it's a serious problem. And it's a problem that for this Edmonton defense, they haven't really been able to solve. They haven't really been able to correct it. And you can see he's a point per game this year, 17 points in 17 games, but he's a -7. And those defensive numbers have been dreadful. This is a player that in the overall ability, in the overall impact, I'm taking players like David Jiricek and Pavel Mintyukov every day of the week. And a great offensive talent is great, but when you can't defend as a defenseman, it just creates so many more problems for your defense, especially when you're not able to shelter him correctly. With Mintyukov, with Jiricek, you're not going to have to worry about that. Then the player right outside the top 30 in Cole Perfetti. This is one that I could see maybe a slight higher increase, but not by too much. We've seen this year with Perfetti just how good he has been in 17 games. He has 6 goals, 8 assists for 14 points, is really gelling on that middle six for Winnipeg and really looking good as a 21-year-old, which is fantastic to see. But that the smarts and the determination he has in every shift is starting to really shine through. And it's great to see him really be a mainstay on that Jets roster. But now we go from 30 to 26, and coming up here next up, oh boy, okay, this is gonna get really interesting. Let's start out with Quinton Byfield at number 30, and again, I think they're continuing to underrate him. Apparently, he wasn't even on the list last year, which I think is a gross overreaction to him not developing as perfectly as they'd imagine. But Quinton Byfield is already turning into one of the Kings' best players on a team that is one of the best teams in the NHL. At 21 years old, as a second overall pick, you can see this year in 17 games has 15 points, 12 assists. He has been a monster on the forecheck physically, defensively. He's been so much better. He has continued in every single game to continue the improvement every single game. And the fact that he is 30th right now, I mean, there is a lot of good players on this list. Quinton Byfield is one of the best playmakers on this list already, and the fact that he's 30th, man, with the potential too. It's not just about players right now, it's about the potential. Byfield is a beast, and he's going to be an even bigger beast too. And he deserves to be higher. Dang it. But then you go on to the next pick here at number 28, and they have K'Andre Miller of the New York Rangers. Now, I love K'Andre. He has been so underrated for this Rangers team over the past few years. Last year was a little bit of a step back defensively, but this year he's back to a great level, and that's fantastic to see too. And you can see in 16 games, he has 7 points, looking solid on both ends of the ice. But again, this is about potential. This is about how good these players will be. And I'm sorry, I don't see K'Andre Miller being a better player than Quinton Byfield, or a better player as well than Cole Perfetti or anybody like that. To me, K'Andre Miller will be a fantastic top 4D and will be a solid piece for this Rangers team, but nothing that's going to be an elite force or anything like Quinton Byfield will be and has been. I love that K'Andre Miller is getting the hype here, but this puts his expectations wildly out of whack. This is expecting him to be one of the best defensemen in the NHL, which I just don't see happening. And then you go into Bowen Byram, 27, and it's the same thing as well. With Byram, I mean, he's a player that is looking like a solid top 4D, but this year hasn't gone off to the greatest start. Of course, health has been a massive concern over the past couple years and has definitely given him a step back in his development. But 1 assist in 17 games, 4 points, a -4 on the abs. To me, Byram should not be inside the top 30 at this point. Ahead of Quinton Byfield, ahead of players as well like David Jiricek and Pavel Mintyukov. I just don't see it. And then you got Devon Levi ending outside of the top 25 at number 26. And I think this is a fair range for him. We know that he's going to be the face of that goaltending for Buffalo eventually. This year has not gone his way, an 881 save percentage in 7 games. And Buffalo hasn't really been able to shelter him as much as they probably should have, especially getting a backup goaltender that could give him some stability. Of course, they didn't go after them. But of course, I think Levi will be good at some point and will be one of the better NHL goaltenders. So at this spot, you can't really hate it. Going into the next tier, I'm going to assume that we start to get into some real NHL elite talent. So let's go straight through, go on to the players just outside the top 20. And there you go. You got Mason McTavish, 25. Wyatt Johnston, 24, Jesper Wallstedt, 23, Dustin Wolf, and then Matty Beniers. You start this tier off with Mason McTavish and Wyatt Johnston, two guys that make is really perfect in this range, honestly. Of course, with Mason McTavish, he's shown fantastic things this year, especially 17 points in 18 games, captain material. He's going to be a beast for Anaheim. And you got Wyatt Johnston, who I think also deserves to be around this spot, 14 points in 17 games, but he has been brilliant for the Stars over these past couple of seasons. But I will give kudos here to TSN. Jesper Wallstedt this high is a dub for sure. To me, I do think Jesper Wallstedt is still the best goaltending prospect in the entire NHL. 20th overall by Wild back in 2021. He is a player, though, that's continued to get better and better every single year, and that innate homegrown talent has continued to shine through. This year in the AHL, a .932 save percentage, a 2.01 goals against average. He has been unreal for Iowa and has been one of the most valuable players in the entire AHL. He is going to be such a big force for this Minnesota Wild team and such a big improvement in net. And to me, I think he deserves to be this high. You also got Dustin Wolf ahead of him, which I wouldn't quite have, but I still do love to see Dustin Wolf get the appreciation he deserves at 22 years old. You can see over the past years just how dominant he has been. Not the greatest start this year of the AHL, but he's still doing solid, I think, down there with the Calgary Wranglers, and we'll see how he continues to improve. But I wouldn't have him quite this high. Probably more in the mid-30s. And then you got Matty Beniers as the last player outside the top 20, and sure, has this start to the season been great? Definitely not, but he still has 10 points in 20 games. Defensively, he has been a lot worse than he was last season, but I still like betting on the potential of Matty Beniers and him turning that page after a rough start. This is still an unreal talent, an unreal mature talent, and I think for Seattle, still a player that will turn into their first line center. Now let's go on to the next tier and see if we can get a couple of really interesting ones here. Let's go on inside the top 20, and oh boy, interesting. We got a couple of players not even in the NHL right now. You got, of course, Matt Boldy at 20, Lucas Raymond at 19, Cousins at 18, Cutter Gauthier and Matvei Michkov, two Flyers prospects back to back. Now this tier is definitely interesting. You got Matt Boldy here at 20, who unfortunately has been really stake bitten this year, but has still found a way to get 8 points in 10 games. Should absolutely have more than one goal at this point, though, but he's just, again, had a really snake-bitten season so far, but I can see why you'd have him this high. I wouldn't have him over Beniers, but still, I can see why you'd have Boldy this high. Lucas Raymond is interesting at number 19. I do like him, and I've always liked him, and of course, you see this season, especially in Sweden, he was great for Detroit, 13 points in 17 games so far, but above Quinton Byfield at this stage, I just don't know how you justify that over Matty Beniers still at this stage, even though he's had a poor start. To me, there are just more valuable players, especially on this list, that were way lower behind him, and I like Raymond. I do think he'll be a great first-line winger, but I don't know if he'll be a truly elite one. That is the question. Then you got Dylan Cousins here at the next spot. This to me is a little bit high as well. He had a great season last year, but I mean, this year has had some really rough moments, and especially defensively has had some moments where he just kind of looks lost, which is sad to see, but hopefully he'll get back to that 2023 level. And you got a couple of Flyers prospects who haven't even played in the NHL yet, and Cutter Gauthier and Matvei Michkov. I think Michkov deserves to be this high. With what he has shown in the KHL this year, he's been unreal. Cutter Gauthier being this high is interesting. I still don't know if I would go this high with him, even though he has been dominant in the NCAA the past couple of years. Again, there might be a couple players that might be still a little bit more valuable for me in the overall game, but still, Cutter Gauthier has shown some unreal things, and if he continues to play like he did in the NCAA and the NHL, then you could absolutely have him this high. But now we go inside the top 15 U24 NHL players here, and let's keep going. And for the next tier, we got Logan Cooley, Fantilli, Hughes, Svechnikov, and Noah Dobson. Now this tier is absolutely nutty. You got Logan Cooley at this spot, which I think is fair for the talent and the potential he has. We, of course, have seen offensively how good he has been. Some defensive shortcomings so far, but he is still 19 years old. Adam Fantilli at number 14, I don't know what's happening here. We're going to get into a second a couple of players that he should be ahead of, but I think Fantilli is going to be a fantastic player. Should be in the top 15 for sure. I would argue inside the top 10 potentially. He is that good, and for Columbus, just how bad they've been, it's really hurt Fantilli's point production, but he is going to be an unreal first-line center. You got Luke Hughes at the next spot, which makes sense, of course, with the offensive ceiling that he has shown, as well as how good he's just been in the NHL in his rookie year so far. 10 points in 16 games. He has been great. Andrei Svechnikov at this spot, of course, with where he lies. It's interesting the past couple of years, the production. At this 12th spot, he has shown over the past couple of years how he can be a great power forward, a fantastic winger, but how elite will he be? You can see 55 points in 64 games last year, 5 points, 0 goals in 9 games this season. I think Svechnikov is a fantastic play driver, a great power forward, but just how elite will he become? Will he be better than Adam Fantilli when it's all said and done? I don't think so. And then you got Noah Dobson at number 11, which is just an absolute joke. Another type of Evan Bouchard situation where points-wise, he's put up some great numbers, but defensively, he's had some horrible moments over these past couple years. I think it's definitely gotten better this year, but it's not anything special. And to me with Dobson, even though the point production has been there, above Adam Fantilli, above Logan Cooley, I just don't see how there's a justification for that. Even players like David Jiricek and Pavel Mintyukov, who I both think will be better than Dobson and be better overall players. I'm calling shenanigans on this, man. Dobson being this high, I won't justify that. I can't. And now we go inside the top 10, and let's officially get us started here. Leo Carlsson, Power, Caulfield, Sanderson, and Moritz Seider. Now this one to me is also way off base, because with what Adam Fantilli and Leo Carlsson has shown, I think both of them deserve to be in this top 10, and honestly, deserve to be higher as well. I think Leo Carlsson especially has so much potential, and the fact that he is below players like Cole Caulfield, who I love, but let's be honest, Cole Caulfield is just going to be a more one-dimensional player than Leo Carlsson probably already is. You got Owen Power at this spot at number 9. Sure, he has shown some great things as well, even though this year hasn't been incredible for him. But then, of course, you got Cole Caulfield, who I love. But again, above Adam Fantilli, above Leo Carlsson, above these elite centermen, I just don't know if you can have him this high. You got Jake Sanderson at number 7, who has shown some fantastic things as well especially offensively this year. He has been brilliant. We'll see if he's able to actually play up to this high of a level, but I think it could definitely happen. You also got Moritz Seider here just outside the top 5 at number 6. Another player that over the past couple of years hasn't been up to that maybe elite level that he showed in his rookie year, but still has a lot of potential here. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's the 6th best player on this list when it's all said and done. And let's get into the top 5 of this list, and we're going to go straight into it here. Bada bing, bada boom. And there you got Dahlin, Stutzle, Jack Hughes, Quinn Hughes, and Connor Bedard rounding out the top 5. Now, I'm not even going to show the elite prospects pages for these guys because you already know who these guys are. Dahlin at number 5, that makes sense. Tim Stutzle at number 4. I could see why you'd have him this high. I don't know if I would quite go the same way, but still, I think you could have him inside the top 5. Jack Hughes at number 3, though. This is where it gets really interesting because, again, this isn't just now. This is how these players will be in the future. And I saw a lot of people saying, oh, Bedard number 1, you know, that doesn't make sense because it's about now. Jack Hughes is better right now. Absolutely. But this is about how these players will be in the future, and Connor Bedard will be the best player out of all of these players, no doubt. But here's the thing, though. Having Quinn Hughes over Jack Hughes is really, really interesting. Would you guys agree on that? Do you think Quinn Hughes will be the better player than Jack Hughes when it's all said and done? Obviously, what we've seen this year and just the absolute domination he has had offensively has shown a lot of great things. Jack Hughes, though, I don't know if I'm quite ready to put him at the number 3 spot. I think I would still probably put him at number 2 on just an unreal ability, what he's shown so far early with the Devils. But still, having both Hughes brothers this high does make me happy. But that is it for TSN's top 5, top 50 U24 NHL players. Let us know down below. What did you guys agree? What did you guys disagree with? And what would your top 50, your top 5 under 24 players look like down below? Of course, make sure you share it to all the hockey fans you guys know online. And click on this card for all my hockey prospects talk right in one playlist. My name is Nathan. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Have a great day, and goodbye.